Hey, what is up YouTube? This video I'm going to be doing a pad breakdown and comparison of the LGG Saturn, the QCK, the Extra5 Gp4, and the GSR-SE. And yeah, let me get right into it. I'm going to start by talking about the QCK because this is a pad that I'm sure everybody has owned, everybody has used and abused and worn to shreds, and this pad has a really bad reputation. And I want to address that for a second. Uh, this QCK I have owned for about 3 to 4 months at this point. Um, and I mean, it's pristine. And I've played on it. This has been my main pad for the most part until I switched to the GSR-SE just for a little bit. This has been my main pad. It is pristine. There aren't any slow spots. Like, it is consistent. Um, I have a QCK Heavy at home that I've used for even longer. And that pad has seen a lot of wear, but you wouldn't tell by looking at it. And the thing is with pads, the QCK is by far the most popular, the most purchased pad in existence. It has been used by you, your brother, your sister, your, I don't know, anybody who has played FPS has used a QCK. And as a result, I mean, when I was a kid and I played, I mean, I'm kind of still a kid, but when I was younger and I played FPS, I was not the cleanest. I was not the cleanest kid when I was playing. And so, I mean, I chewed up a QCK. My friend Steven, he chewed up a QCK. Like, his QCK looked like absolute shit. And here's the thing. When I play now, I wash my hands before I play. I don't eat at my desk. So all of my pads are pristine. I mean, I can't talk about durability because I've never worn out a mouse pad to the point of unusability. So, I mean, I'm ranting here, but my point is that if you exercise basic hygiene, um, I think you can make any pad except for maybe certain coated pads, like the GSR potentially, GSR-SE rather. You could potentially wear those pads down. But if you maintain basic hygiene while playing on an uncoated cloth pad, which these are all uncoated, they should last. So anyway, rant over. Um, what I can't defend about the QCK, other than the overall durability, is the thin base, and it's really the thin base. The problem is with the QCK is that if you purchase an edge, you get like a wimpy ass 2 millimeter base. If you purchase the heavy, you don't get stitch edges. So it is really hard for me to recommend the QCK to like a general person, like any random person, because the lack of stitch edges will impact the durability for sure. Like my QCK Heavy at home, like I played on it without taping the edge, and it was already lifting up after like a week. So I I I find it hard to recommend the QCK in 2022 just because of that. And the thin base will mean that this pad will be definitely less durable than other pads. So do be aware of that. Um, but anyway, I wanted to talk about the QCK first because that's the baseline for all these comparisons, because I'm sure all of you guys have used that. And from the QCK, I'm going to start talking about the Extra5 Gp4. And this is also a pad that I can't really recommend. Compared to the QCK, it has about the same kinetic friction. Like the kinetic friction is more or less the same. However, the static friction is lower. So ignoring my gripes with the pad, if you were looking for a pad that is like a notch faster in terms of static friction, so you want those micro adjustments, right? The micro adjustments. Go ahead and get the GB4. It is a quality pad, but my gripes with this pad are with the surface feel. It is the roughest pad of all four of these. It is quite rough, and it causes your hand to like drag on it when you're playing, and it gets even worse when you sweat. Um, which I don't know why that is. It has something to do with the weave, but yeah, that it didn't used to annoy me, but when I started playing with it more and then playing with smoother pads, I realized that this is just like it's annoying. It's really annoying to have your hand drag on the pad, and I keep my hand on the pad for control. If you don't do that, then I can recommend the GP4. Otherwise, no. Also, this pad smells bad out of the box, and it's also rolled really, really tightly. It was a pain in the ass to unroll and lay flat. So, for those reasons, I'm not going to recommend the GP4. The next pad I'm going to talk about is the Saturn, and the Saturn is a pad I can definitely recommend. Uh, so this pad is like the GP4. It has faster static friction. It has even faster static friction than the GP4, which means it is a significant step up in terms of that compared to the QCK. And the kinetic friction is also faster than both pads. So the Saturn, in my opinion, is like a true medium pad. Um, it's not really a control pad, but as a result, I think this pad is a very easy one to love. I can definitely see, like, honestly, anybody picking this pad up and really enjoying using it. Um, I personally prefer things on the slower side because I just exclusively play like Valorant and CS. However, I know like most people probably don't want really slow pads, and most people are looking to upgrade from a QCK. And I think that for most people, the Saturn is a true QCK upgrade. You get stitched edges, you get a pretty decently thick base. The quality is good. The price is not bad. The surface is it's not as smooth as a QCK, but it is not nearly as rough as a GP4. It is still a little bit sandpapery, but honestly, if you're looking for a faster QCK, look no further. Get yourself a Saturn, be happy, live your life. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the dark horse, and it's the GSR-SE or the vaxee PA. I'd say the vaxee PA because that pad is essentially the same as this, but I think it has stitched edges, and it is also technically cheaper, but you have to pay shipping, so the price comes about to be the same between these two pads. Um, but for stitched edges alone, I would get the vaxee PA 100%. With that being said, let me talk about the surface because in terms of pure performance, this is probably in aim trainers. This is by far the best performing pad I've ever used, um, and that's like, yeah. There's nothing really else to say. And just in terms of glide, this pad it is slightly rougher than the QCK. It is not as rough as the Saturn, but it's still smooth. And the static friction is much lower. It is lower than any of these pads. It is much lower than QCK, but the kinetic friction is higher than on the QCK. So it has a very skewed kinetic friction to static friction ratio, but it's not to the point of ridiculousness. I've used pads with like extremely low static friction, and in particular, I think the Jupiter has a very low static friction on some mouse feet, and that pad just feels really weird, like really slippery. But this pad, it feels very locked in while still like you're still able to play tack shooters no problem. And so I can highly recommend the GSR-SE, vaxee PA, etc. The one thing to note is that this pad is coated. The vaxee PA is coated, so in terms of durability, they honestly will probably be the least durable pads, both the PA and the GSR-SE, of all of these pads, including the QCK, because these are all uncoated. You can wash them no problem. Whereas, after the first wash of the GSR-SE, it will probably lose a lot of glide. So, but in terms of pure performance, GSR-SE, vaxee PA all the way. And yeah, all these pads are really good. Pads in general, I think, are a little bit overrated. Um, you can play pretty well on any of them, but let me touch on humidity for a second because I think humidity is a little bit of a meme. Um, the thing with humidity is that obviously humidity increases the friction on a surface, right? Due to like the absorption of water into the surface. Um, so I think that humidity is going to be a function. Don't I'm not like a material chemist. I don't know fucking anything. So this is just me throwing shit out the wall, and theorizing what might cause like humidity related issues. My theory is that like the weave density, in addition to the obviously the general friction properties of the pad, are going to cause quote unquote humidity issues, like pads slowing down and being really like bad to use. um, and definitely like the surface roughness will also impact it. So like I noticed that when my hands sweat, I'd like the GP4 became nearly unusable. The QCK, it gets a little bit sticky when you move your hands and your hands are sweaty, but it's not horrible. The Saturn does not really feel that bad. It doesn't feel at all. And so my theory is that when people say that like a pad is not impacted by humidity, what they're just saying is that pad is faster. Um, every single pad that people say like doesn't get impacted by humidity is just clearly faster than pads that they say are impacted by humidity. Like, for example, the the fucking QCK, right? This pad is lauded by people who say that this is a fucking mud pad when you sweat at all. Um, but it's just a slower pad. It is literally just a slower pad. So anyway, I'm ranting. Humidity wise, I think like humidity will always be an issue. Like there is no mouse pad that is immune to humidity. Even like I have a Wicked Bunny Sprint that I used for a while. That is a Cordura pad. It is theoretically 100% resistant to humidity, or mostly resistant to humidity. But obviously that's bullshit, right? I mean, it is still a fabric. It will still, water will still impact the friction properties of the surface. So, I mean, the thing is that pad is extremely fast, so you don't notice the humidity effects as much. So, my biggest recommendation if you have issues with humidity is just buy yourself a dehumidifier or deal with it because it's really, unless you live in a super, super humid, hot environment, you can adapt. You adapt pretty quickly. Just warm up your aim, get used to things, and you should be able to perform pretty well. So anyway, this was a really long-winded video. I talked a lot. Hopefully, I didn't say anything too controversial. And if you enjoyed it, just leave a like. I'd appreciate a subscribe. And see you in the next.